Before I reflect on today's readings, the feast today of the Ascension, I just want to say a few words about, these terrible shootings we've had the last week or so, first in Buffalo and then in Uvalde, Texas. And, of course, there's no shortage of people that are, proposing theories and solutions and those sorts of things, and I'm not going to get into all that, whether that's mental health issues or issues with access to certain types of firearms and so forth. But, it really should shake us. And I'm no doubt most of you are parents, and that is obviously your worst nightmare to think that something had happened to small, innocent young children. But we're confronted with the reality of evil in the world. It's not just, in Ukraine. There's evil in our world. And we don't like to think about that. But it's the truth. And it's an ongoing challenge. That's precisely why Christ comes into the world. And so while it is shaking and jarring, it should also cause us to all the more turn to our faith and see what the Lord is asking of us and calling us to do to advance his kingdom here on earth. Now, maybe it's just me because I've been to a lot of graduations lately. It's that season. In fact, the ascension of the Lord into heaven reminds me of a graduation in some ways. The apostles get together with Jesus one last time. There are some words of advice, even a final blessing, if you will. And then the earthly ministry of Jesus comes to a close as he ascends to heaven with all sorts of pomp and circumstance. If we think about graduations, they do mark a transition from one school to another, or the end of school to a new state in life or a new phase in our lives. The burden of responsibility shifts from the teacher to what the student has learned. Now, I've heard my fair share of commencement addresses, both from students and from administrators. 7 in this last week alone. It's interesting that most students who are called upon to give the salutatorian or valedictorian address tend to go in one of two directions. Either they reflect on their time together as a class, and highlight some specific examples or stories, often humorous things or things that they experience, maybe even challenges, such as, the pandemic. That's kind of one direction, looking back. Or the other main direction is they talk about what the future will be like, or should be like, or what they think it will be like. That's quite natural because, if we look at that's quite natural, I should say. But if we look at the final words of Jesus, he does not really take either path. He doesn't just go down memory lane, like, hey, remember when I healed the blind guy, or how about those loaves and fishes? That was a good one, wasn't it, or remember how all of you thought it was a bad idea that we go to Jerusalem? See, it worked out, bet I caught you off guard when I raised Lazarus from the dead after 4 days. How about that wine I made in Cana? Okay, so pretty good, huh? Nor does Jesus just speculate about the future, about, how everything's going to be wonderful and rosy. Instead, what Jesus does, he commissions them. He gives them a mission and a purpose. They are to proclaim, to preach the gospel. And guess what? These words, this commission to preach and proclaim the gospel is not just for the apostles of old. They are for us as well. We are called to share the good news of salvation through both word and deed. We can never, just be content just to look back at the good times when we felt the Lord was very close in our lives, but rather must always be looking forward to do what the Lord is asking us to do right now, today. For the real truth is that the earthly ministry of Jesus did not end with his ascension to heaven. It in fact continues, but in a different way. It continues now through each and every one of us. The Lord is in fact depending upon us to be his eyes, to be his voice, to be his hands, to be his feet. You and me, we've been entrusted with the proclaiming of the gospel. And if the gospel has not advanced far enough, we can't blame it on God. We have to look at ourselves and see, what is it that we have yet to do that the Lord is asking us to do? Jesus does not use any false platitudes. He knows his church will face opposition. He knows that there will be times, indeed, of great confusion and uncertainty. But he assures us of his presence and, of course, the gift of the Holy Spirit. The Ascension is not about looking back at the good times, but rather looking forward to what lies ahead. What opportunities do you have today to share the gospel? It may not be dramatic, but even a small opportunity is important to the Lord and important to that one whose life you may touch. What opportunities will emerge tomorrow when you will be given that opportunity to speak the truth, to radiate love, to manifest forgiveness? Whatever the case, whatever that will be, whatever those opportunities are, know this: the Lord is counting on you. Do not let him down. We are indeed called to be his witnesses. And just as he told his apostles, now go proclaim the gospel in word, in deed, by example, by the very manner the Lord is asking of you. Don't let him down. The Lord is counting on you.